All right, man, peace. So as you brothers that pay attention are probably starting to recognize, the mainstream liberal sports media is starting to finally understand and acknowledge that it's very clear that most of the prominent players in the NBA do not want to play with LeBron James. Well, Doc Rivers, the coach of the LA Clippers, recently sat down with Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman and basically acknowledged that he believes that the Clippers have a very realistic chance to be able to attain the services of Mr. Kawhi Leonard. So, of course, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
And we welcome Doc Rivers back to the program with us here. First take coming to you from L.A. Beautiful sunny day here.
It is a beautiful sunny day, but forgive me, I got questions. I
thought I was going to get off.
I got questions.
I had questions for you, too, but I mean, he's just all hyped.
Listen, one of the things that I've repeatedly stated was that the Golden State Warriors, as great as they are, it all started because of a blown opportunity. The Clippers had them up 19 in Game 6, closed them out. And it was before they had ever won their first title. Right then, that was a heated rivalry.
Well, actually, Stephen A. Smith, if I remember correctly, the Clippers beat the Golden State Warriors in 7 games in 2014. Not 6 games. But if I'm wrong about that, one of you brothers can correct me.
And I thought that if they had been derailed by then, who knows what the future would have been like in the National Basketball Association. When you reflect, assuming you reflect back on that time, talk to me about what kind of feelings you have, and do you feel like it's the greatest missed opportunity of your coaching career?
I think that the Golden State Warriors would have had to have won the championship in 2014 for Mark Jackson to keep his job. I believe that Joe Lacob and the rest of his crew were out on Mark Jackson, and they had decided, most likely earlier on that season, that they were going to let him go and bring on Steve Kerr. Those type of acquisitions, they don't just happen.
No, it's a missed opportunity. I mean, we had a chance to beat, we did beat Golden State. You know, we knocked Golden State out. We're the last team to knock Golden State out.
Right, yeah.
Then we lost.
Right, playing in their old style of play under Mark Jackson, which did not fully optimize the overall talents of their players. Just look up Steph Curry's numbers under Mark Jackson. He was playing 4 to 5 more minutes per game than he's playing now, and he was scoring less, and the shooting percentages were actually lower. Now, when they brought in Steve Kerr, Steph Curry's minutes per game have gone down to about 32, 33 minutes per game, and he's averaging about 4 more points per game and shooting a better percentage. It's truly amazing what Steph Curry does with the low amount of minutes that he plays. He only plays about 32, 33 minutes a game. When you have stars like a Russell Westbrook or LeBron James or James Harden normally playing in those upper 30s areas.
We lost to Oklahoma,
right?
In a series where it was done basically, and we had a bad 5 minutes, you know. And
no, you didn't have a bad 5 minutes. Oklahoma City just had the better players. Russell Westbrook was more impactful in that situation than Chris Paul. And I remember that series very well because Chris Paul had a series of faux pas or foibles per se in very pivotal moments against Russell Westbrook, and Westbrook was able to take advantage in a big way. And of course, Kevin Durant thoroughly outplayed Blake Griffin. But no, Stephen A. Smith is trying to craft this narrative that the LA Clippers could have been the Golden State Warriors had little things been contorted here or there. No, that's not the case. They were never going to be Golden State because never at any time did the Clippers have what it took to transcend in big moments. They did not trust the leadership of Chris Paul. Chris Paul did not relate well to his teammates. And Blake Griffin just was not good enough to be a supplementary piece. That's not even speaking about Chris Paul not being good enough to be the alpha on that team or lead that team to a championship. So that there was never going to be an alternative reality where they won championships or where they were the Golden State Warriors. No.
You know, some of our key guys struggled there, and
i.e. Chris Paul.
And it happens. Right. So, but you always look back, if you had made it through that series, and then we'd go on and played San Antonio, I think, and you know, maybe we win that year.
It's a lot of maybes, bro. Well, if we beat OKC, and then if we beat San Antonio, and then if we beat Miami, like, come on, y'all just wasn't good enough
that year. But you can't live that way, you know.
I agree.
You know, the right. You know what I've always said: the right teams win. You
In
know?
the NBA, that's true more than anywhere else.
Really do.
I agree. In the NBA, the right team wins the championship probably about 95 to 98% of the time.
Really do. And so we were really good, but we were not good enough.
Doc,
And yeah, so you look back, you wish you could have. We were excited. We didn't close games. We were not good enough.
Doc, that's in the NBA more than any other sport. The right team wins,
The
right?
right team wins most of the time.
Right, most of the time.
So obviously you can't say who. That would be like, interfering and all that stuff, but you can't invent Kevin Garnett. Either that guy is out there or he's not, right? Like that. So when you look around the league, I guess let me phrase it this way. Do you see certain players that you think, as a coach, that guy, I could build a championship team around that guy? Have you identified a couple of those guys?
Yeah, I can't use his name.
That you believe it?
I'll use the name. You're thinking about Kawhi Leonard. We all know that you're thinking about Kawhi Leonard. It's very obvious. Kawhi Leonard, the notion has been put forth that he wants to play in LA. We already know that Jerry West fired one of their announcers, Bruce Bowen, because of some very critical comments that he made about Kawhi Leonard. I did a video about that. So they're already trying to set the stage for Kawhi Leonard to come home.
Believe you have a realistic shot at landing?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
How many?
Now, for Doc Rivers to say for sure, yeah, in response to Max Kellerman's question of is there a player or is there that special player that you think you have a realistic chance of landing, it's very obvious to me that he's talking about Kawhi Leonard. Now, could he be talking about Kevin Durant? Who knows? Maybe, but I doubt it. It's more likely Kawhi Leonard.
How many are there in the league right now
That you can build with one guy.
where you think that's the guy that's going to change, that's going to bring the
Good
championship
question.
culture that I can
There's
coach?
several. I don't know if the NBA's ever been better than right now.
I totally agree, sir. The NBA right now may have the most talent that I can ever remember it having, maybe since the late 80s. I mean, in all honesty, in the late 80s, you had Jordan, you had Magic, you had Bird, you had Isaiah, you had Hakeem, Charles Barkley, Dominique Wilkins, Patrick Ewing, David Robinson, James Worthy. The list went on and on. Right now in the NBA, you might have the most talent that they've had since back then.
The talent is everywhere right now, and so
Even the big man has made a comeback.
there's several guys from a coaching standpoint you can look at, and it said as a team builder, but it's more than just playing. Now you look at Curry at Golden State. It's not just his ability; it's his ability also to allow himself to be coached, to invite players in.
Absolutely. In other words, Doc Rivers is saying that Steph Curry actually is what the media gives LeBron James credit for being. The media gives LeBron James credit for being this great coach on the floor. For many, many years, the narrative has been that all these great players want to play with LeBron. Everybody wants to play with LeBron. That has never been the case. But we see with Steph Curry, how many other players in the NBA could be unanimous MVP and then have another MVP feel comfortable coming on board to play alongside of him? Obviously, other great players look at Steph Curry and they say to themselves, his game is so efficient and so proficient that I could actually play alongside him and get my numbers and he get his and we not clash.
To want to play with others, to do everything right in the organization, and that's why they're so good. Is because they all fit in, and it starts with Curry. Make no mistake. I mean, Durant is phenomenal, but Curry was there first.
The culture setter.
The tone. He really did, and
Absolutely, no doubt about it.
Duncan and Robinson was like that.
Right.
Kevin Garnett was like that. They're just certain guys that understand.
That's why I've stated already, Kevin Durant is not your alpha. And that's the mistake that a lot of cats out there are making when they get so upset with Kevin Durant for leaving. And he most likely is going to leave Golden State at the end of this year also. Kevin Durant is not an alpha. Wherever he goes, most likely he's going to go somewhere where there's going to be another alpha either already there or they've had discussions. He's had discussions with another player who could be considered an alpha and he's going to team up with him. KD does not want to be that lead guy.
What it takes to win.
Coach, do you find yourself looking at some stars? You don't have to mention any names, but just looking at some stars, and some stars would have been that way in any era, while other guys, they're supported by the era of basketball that we're in now, the rules changes.
Superstars would have been superstars in any era, Stephen A. Smith. I've stated that already. As certain cats get flummoxed when I stated that we see what Jerry West would have been in the NBA today. His name is Steph Curry. Jerry West was a little bit taller than Steph Curry. Go back and look at Jerry West's numbers. This dude averaged over 40 points per game in the finals back in 1969. 1969. People think that's so long ago. It's a little bit under 50 years ago, 1969. You think about it, 10 years after that, Magic Johnson came into the NBA. Only 15 years after that, Michael Jordan came into the NBA. It was not that long ago. Okay? You figure like this, 15 years ago, LeBron James came into the NBA. I mean, sometimes we have to put things in that type of perspective to understand what greatness really is. Jerry West would have dominated today. Oscar Robertson would dominate today. Steph Curry would have dominated 50 years ago. Great players are going to be great no matter the era.
Is how considerably softer the NBA is perceived as being now compared to what it was like when the Bad Boy Pistons and then Pat Riley's New York Knicks with Mason and Oakley and Ewing and those.
It's laughable to see people like Stephen A. Smith try to glamorize the Bad Boy Pistons. The Pistons were the most hated franchise of that era. They were renowned for being dirty. I don't care what anybody says, that people try to claim that the Celtics and the Sixers and those other teams were just as dirty. They were never known for being dirty. The Pistons were known for being dirty. Bill Laimbeer is probably the dirtiest player, or one of the dirtiest players in the history of the NBA, and that's the main reason why he's not in the Hall of Fame right now. That's what really has held back many of those players from going to the Hall of Fame, is being a member of the Bad Boy Pistons. Bill Laimbeer, Mark Aguirre, they're both Hall of Fame caliber players. They should both be in. But they're not in because they were known for being on that team. Mark Aguirre was also known for being a malcontent on the Dallas Mavericks as well. But it's funny to hear people like Stephen A. Smith try to glamorize the Bad Boy Pistons and how they played. Because the league quickly realized we have to change this. Not to assist Michael Jordan in winning a championship, but because we're accustomed to a certain style of play with the Lakers and the Celtics. And if they're going to fade away, we can't let the new modus operandi for championship winning be thuggery. That's the bottom line of it.
And those boys, clearly the game has changed to some degree. Do you look at some stars and say, don't matter?
Or even players like Patrick Beverly could have played on your Knicks.
But now.
Yeah, Patrick Beverly could have played on those early 90s Knicks, and he would have lost in the big spot just like those early 90s Knicks did.
There's no doubt about
this
that.
era facilitates their stardom. Do you see
that?
that?
I think stardom is stardom. Okay. I really do.
Thank you, sir.
I really do. I think these guys are great in their own era, and they'd be great in any era. Stars are different. They really are. And they would be great. You can put any of these guys and any of the older guys in this era, and they would have figured it out, you know.
Thank you, sir. Imagine Jerry West or Oscar Robertson with a three-point line. Those guys scored 26,000 points with no three-point line. John Havlicek with a three-point line. Pistol Pete Maravich without the health issues in the three-point line. Pistol Pete Maravich scored 68 points on Walt Clyde Frazier, who was known for his great defense, with no three-point line. Imagine Walt Clyde Frazier playing today with the conditioning and fitness regimens that these teams have today. Those players from the 60s and 70s, they would have been even better.
You know, because the players are always past the rules. And so if the rules change, the players adjust.
Do you need to get to the playoffs this year, in your estimation, to attract one of those marquee superstars to come to the Clippers?
No, I don't think so, but we want to. You know,
I think that it certainly makes you look better if you make the playoffs, Doc Rivers. You want to at least get to the 7th or 8th seed. I'm sure that you won't get any higher than that, but I don't think that you guys are going to make the playoffs. So this offseason will definitely be a litmus test for how attractive your franchise is to a Kawhi Leonard and whoever else you have in your sights, most likely a Jimmy Butler.
I think we are attractive. You know, I think we have good coaching. I think we have a great organization. And
man said, I think we have good coaching. You the coach, Doc. What else you going to say?
I think we have a great nucleus of guys. And we do. This is the first time.
The best thing you have going for you is that you have the great Jerry West as the person presiding over your personnel, your player personnel. That's what you have going for you best. One can certainly make the case that Jerry West has been the architect, the engineer of probably 3 of the top 4 teams of the last 40 years, that being the Showtime Lakers, the Shaq and Kobe Lakers, and the Golden State Warriors.
Since I've been with the Clippers, that we actually have flexibility. We've never had that, and we finally have it. We're going to take advantage of it.
Jack, before we let you go, I asked Magic this, and he said he felt like the Warriors and the Celtics are neck and neck this year. Do you think that's accurate?
Yeah, I do.
They're very close, but I have to give the Warriors a slight edge because they have superstar power. The Celtics don't have any superstar power other than Kyrie, and Kyrie's a borderline superstar. Golden State Warriors have 2 bona fide superstars in Steph Curry and Kevin Durant. Kyrie, if you squint your eyes, is right there with Steph. But at the end of the day, he's never won a regular season MVP, much less 2. He's never led his team to a championship. He was right there acting as a borderline partner with LeBron, but he's never led his team to a championship run. Steph has done that. Even though people will say, well, he has not played that well in the finals, he led his team to 2 straight finals before KD even got there.
The Celtics are just so deep. Their bench is incredible. When you think about what Brad did last year with the injuries, but you can even make the case with the injuries, they were still better than the teams in the East because of their talent level.
A lot of them, unfortunately, they got overwhelmed by LeBron James.
Danny Ainge has done an amazing job. He did an amazing job when I was there. I mean, he goes out and he gets talent, and that's what makes.
And he's a forward thinker. Danny Ainge is thinking 5, 6, 7 steps ahead.
What makes them special?
Do you think it's close between them and Toronto, as Max assumes, or I think that the
It's very close, Stephen A. Smith. It's very close. Let me say this: Toronto has the length to defend a lot of the Boston Celtics players. They have the length and the athleticism to defend a lot of their players. And Kawhi is a major upgrade over DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan was a top 25 player in the league, arguably top 20. But when you bring in Kawhi Leonard, once again, fully healthy Kawhi is top 5 player in the NBA.
The Celtics, not head and shoulders, but they are better than anybody else in the Eastern Conference. If they don't make the finals, I would be disappointed.
Well, I just think, right now I think it's the Celtics, but I do think Toronto's really good. They have a guy there that makes them really good. I mean,
yeah, the guy who's in your sights.
I mean, when you look at who they traded for, he's special. And if you sleep on Toronto, you are mistaken. So, Stephen, I'm going to have to agree with
you don't
Max.
believe that. You don't believe that one. You don't mean that. You're just doing that to get at me. That's all. You're just doing that to get at me. You don't believe that. But that's okay.
You know what's crazy?
Okay.
That's the second time now Magic also pointed to the depth of the Celtics. But I think actually Toronto's also very deep. The thing that
They are. Toronto's very deep, especially defensively. They guard very well.
thing that blows me away about the Celtics is the starting 5. Who's your worst player? Gordon Hayward, Jaylen Brown? That's your worst player in the starting 5?
And the other thing they do, they defend.
That's right.
Yep.
Like, they defend as well as anybody in the league. And to me, that may be the difference.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to their matchups against the Golden State Warriors and the Rockets and the Lakers, for that matter. When I say they, I'm talking about the Boston Celtics, just so I can gauge exactly where they're at.
Do you know who else was? Kawhi Leonard, your guy.
Yes, he does.
Maybe he'll be in LA
Finals
sometime.
MVP.
Appreciate you, man.
Molly Karen must have picked up on the same thing that I picked up on. She mentioned Kawhi Leonard and then stated maybe he'll be in LA sometime. We'll see. And looked at Doc. Now Doc has to look away. Doc is like, I'm not Magic Johnson.
Doc.
Stand away from that.
We're not trying
Smart man, sir.
to get you in trouble. He wasn't a part of that conversation. We so
Can we clip the part where he said he agrees with me?
But anyway, that's basically it on that. We'll see what happens in the offseason. It would not surprise me if Kawhi Leonard gets very comfortable in Toronto and ends up staying. But we'll see. Peace.